Affordable Housing Trust and Housing Partnership Committee meeting. It is Friday, June 13, 2025. We're meeting in Memorial Hall and Town Hall, and the meeting is being recorded and will be available through Westborough TV. So thank you, Westborough TV. Calling it being after 9 now. Call the meeting to order, and the first agenda item is to approve minutes from the trust meeting of May 9th, 2025. I've read through them. I didn't see anything. Anybody else have?
I actually have some comments this time.
Okay. Go for it.
So on page 1, almost at the very bottom, member storm asked who we are targeting for this project. The second bullet says RFP can say the strongest preference is affordable, and then it just says but. So probably just remove the but.
I should just take the butt out.
Yeah, just take the butt
That's
out.
probably when I cut you off, Kate.
And then on page 2, there's just some pronoun issues. So under the 920 134 Fisher Street, first bullet, member Silverberg commented that to do density for second phase, he may have to gift the additional parcel. I'm pretty sure Mark is not gifting the additional parcel, so we should change that to the developer or whomever.
Yep.
And then MHP asked for a summary so she can share with colleagues. I'm not so sure who she is, so maybe we need to clarify that or just take she out.
So MHP can.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he may be finding grants from the state for supportive housing. Again, I think we just need to clarify that it's the developer. And that was it.
Any other comments, changes? All right. I move the minutes be accepted as amended.
Second?
All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous, 6 being present. Okay, moving on. Discussion of HB cottages. What do you want to say, Hank?
Yeah, we're going to go to the so-called one-stop, which is the Economic Development Coordinator organizes a pre-permitting meeting with all the appropriate permitting authorities in town, and the purpose of which is for them to give you feedback on your design concepts and give you some ideas of the areas where they have concerns. We'll be on for the 16th and the 23rd of July, and in the next week or so I should have a pre-work suggestions. The coordinator is going to send me information about what they'd like to see us bring, and we'll prepare it and go. So I think we'll get a lot of feedback. Again, and most of the feedback you get from that group, most of it will be what I call technical feedback, because you're talking to building inspectors, fire prevention people, public safety people, DPW, all that, and so they're probably not. They may comment about zoning issues and things like that because they have knowledge of it, but most of their feedback will be technical about, yeah, if you want to implement this design and meet all the building code and such criteria, here's the things you need to do. If you're looking for variances, here's the variances, and here's what we believe is appropriate in terms of granting those variances. And again, you don't get any approval of anything, you just get lots of feedback, which is great. That's what we need, is lots of feedback. And after, the next steps after that will be to incorporate the feedback and then start going on the rubber chicken circuit around all the various committees.
Is there any plan to modify the 3 concepts based on our feedback before that meeting, or will you, for example?
I'll talk with WDA and make sure that, that we pick a couple of concepts that, probably no more than 2, and incorporate the various feedback. I mean,
Well, would it be?
you don't want to go in there with 5. I mean, with 5 is,
No, no, no,
just
no.
drive them nuts.
But we have Beach Street.
Oh, yes, I mean, it's
See-
two
the-
separate activities to get feedback.
Right.
Yeah,
We have-
and
and-
deliberately separated by time to clear their minds and not end up getting the same, I mean, again, typical human behavior. I just told you that once, you want me to tell you it again? But give me a week, I'll forget, and I'll tell it to you again.
Right.
Right,
Excuse
so
me, yeah.
we have two,
What's that you said?
it seems that people were interested in the two lower density Beach Street proposals, concepts.
Yeah.
And we can bring both of those to see if they have yays or nays. I mean, they're similar, obviously, just what's the density that we would have, and we can get some feedback from that. So I think we're gonna bring those two. And then do we get a consensus for High Street extension on which of the concepts? If not, we
Again,
should
we'll-
probably
we'll-
only bring one
We'll
of those.
prepare some material
Yeah.
and
We can
and
review
share
the
it with the
material.
committee either
Yeah.
by email or whatever, and,
We can review it at our meeting, which will happen before.
Yeah,
Sure.
the
On the
meeting
11th,
will
right,
happen
sure.
before.
yep.
Yeah, because one of my questions would be like, if for Beach Street, if the plan with the cul-de-sac
Yep,
was gonna be presented, knowing that we could adjust the densities, because they're all duplexes, we can make some of single family if we wanted to, and reduce the parking requirement. We had also talked about maybe replacing the cul-de-sac with a T for the truck turnaround and snow storage, which would provide more green space.
yep.
And so, I don't think we need another set of drawings for that.
No, but we can have that
but
conversation.
It can be a conversation with
We
them.
talk with the public safety
Okay.
people, is a cul-de-sac preferable to a T? A T has open space considerations to it, but that it may not be,
Playfield.
may not be something that they're really comfortable with.
Some of the things we do have, and we got survey, so we have a
Oh, yeah, we got good plot plan.
survey and printouts from WDA for Beach Street that I just got. One of the challenges right now, so on Beach Street, we've done a lot, well, on both things, we've done a lot of work to try to understand any gotchas as far as, soil, any contamination, things like that, surveys, make sure it was a little complex. Because it was really 5 parcels that made up Beach Street over time, and they were able to sort through all that. So we're trying, as we well know, try to get as many unknowns known, so that when we do go out to the RFP, with an RFP, not only have we made sure that we have buildable sites, good buildable sites, but also that we have various town departments, nodding, and that, permits should be able to go through. So the one thing on High Street, I got a call and from a neighbor, and it's, once again, the overgrowth. I sent into Chris Payant, and they'll be able to do at least trimming of the bushes that encroach upon the sidewalk, because people do walk along that. But I'm gonna have to try to find a landscaper to do mowing and stuff, because it is really bad on the side yard there with that. And I talked to,
At High Street?
no, Beach.
Oh, okay, yeah, I
On
was gonna
Beach.
say, I mean.
No, not High, it's all Beach.
Beach Street hasn't been
And
mowed
what
in
the-
50 years, I mean, High Street hasn't been mowed in 50 years.
right, and
Why
no.
start now?
That's what happens when we talk about both of them at the same time.
That's right. So I'm working on that. I got a few recommendations. I'm gonna check to make sure, from Chris, I asked him, do you have any people you could recommend? And he did. And I did get one quote from somebody, but I don't think they have a EIN number, which you need in order to get paid by the town. So we need incorporated,
If you hire an individual, they can have a social security number.
they could use their social security, but I kept hearing we need a W-9. So
We need to be
anyhow,
able to
I'm
give
gonna
them
go, I'm gonna talk to accounting people. I have the list of what Chris suggested, and I say, are these all on our, or do you see
On
any
the
issue,
QVL.
or have you done before with these?
Yeah, the town's
these-
got a QVL, I think,
Yeah.
qualified vendor list.
I thought we had asked for that, and we didn't really get anything. I'll ask again,
Yeah, we,
so, after this
we-
meeting.
Shaw-
All right.
Shaw had something before, I thought.
Maybe, okay, I'll ask about that. So that's where we are with those two, we're, you know, making good progress. WDA's been-
Just the other comment I'd make is when we do go to the pre-permitting meetings, I mean, that will be the first time that will have the potential to attract attention from abutters, the public, et cetera. We haven't done anything that's quite as obvious and we haven't put out information that shows pictures of what we might do. So we may or may not attract some attention. We just need to be prepared for that.
Yeah. I did, the people who called were O'Keefe's, which live on the corner.
Right.
I know
I
Sue.
mean, we may want to
And
do
Bob.
a mailing out to the abutters of the two properties.
I'm given, as a peace offering because of the non-mowing condition, one of the surveys. Sue O'Keefe, who lives on that corner, and gave me a nice history of the area, about the cannery and stuff. That was where the senior housing is now. So she was really good. She's really nice. And so I'm gonna give her one of this survey, which also has the neighbors' plots and things like that. And I've talked to Chris on the other side, and Laura, I don't know her last name, across the street with that. Okay. Moving on. 134 Fisher.
This would be Housing Partnership Committee
I'm
meeting.
sorry, yes.
So I move we suspend the meeting of the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust and enter into a meeting of the Housing Partnership Committee. We will reconvene the meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust upon conclusion of the Partnership Committee meeting.
Right, okay.
Second.
All those in favor? Second, all those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, so 134 Fisher Street, this is Richard Rakehard that we've met with, well, twice in person, and who is looking to build small houses, and initially 18 small houses on that property, with the idea of going with more, but as Mark pointed out last meeting, in order to do that, he may have to give up some other land somewhere just to get the density that he's looking for. Good news is with hopefully the moratorium ended, that he will not have to do septic, which was part of his original plan. I've talked to him a couple times or emailed. What I believe really is the next step for him is he needs to do a feasibility analysis, which is basically laying out what is it going to cost you to build this, and how much you're going to get back, and what your construction room has to be, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think he's gone through that process. You know, to come up with what are the numbers that you need to make this viable. I mean, I haven't seen anything.
I mean, he sort of in the meeting indicated that he had done that, which is, you know, what he used to decide to purchase the property and go for the permitting. We had asked him for some specific information.
Yeah, and we haven't gotten the cap
Because
rate
he
or
was,
things
he
like
was,
that.
he was open to expanding the affordability
Right.
to 25%. With
With
a subsidy, but we need to know, you know, we need to know the numbers to understand what that looks like and what it would mean.
As a developer, he may be reluctant to tell you some things like the cap rate he's using. He shouldn't be, but he may.
So
But if he just gives us the information that he needs to include in an LIP application as part of the financials, it'll be everything we need to sort out, because that'll indicate what subsidies he needs to do things. I mean, the LIP application has a very clear set of numbers that any developer will have done anyway. And he's gonna have to expose all of those numbers when he files the
Yeah,
LIP, so he
It's,
may
it's
as well.
it's not a hesitancy. This is his first residential development
Okay,
ever.
so he doesn't necessarily
He's
know.
historically done commercial buildings, and So it's not just his first affordable housing project, it's his first housing project.
That's a
Without
pretty nice,
understanding.
I mean, the LIP filing is a pretty easy template.
Yeah. So we had given him a list of things. I'm not sure he's pulled it together now. I know his focus has been on completing some other projects he has on.
Because his
other
son
communities.
was laid up with a broken arm, so he couldn't help him with some of the other.
I mean, has he filed with the planning board for approval?
He has a permit.
He has a permit
For the 18.
for
For
the
18 years,
18
it's
with,
fully permitted.
with like 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he might have to amend it if he's gonna go with.
Right, so,
So,
I mean, is he
but I
serious
didn't
about
think it's
amending
gonna
it?
be-
He's open to it because he's looking for the, you know, subsidy opportunities.
Okay,
But, you know, we just, you know, we talked about standard things such as, you know, applying for a waiver of
Sewer hookups.
sewer and water, you know, privilege fees.
Yeah, I don't know the answer, and maybe Kristen would, if he has to apply for an amendment to his existing permit just to change from septic to sewer, or if that would be,
Can you
yeah, I don't know.
drop
the
us a
answer.
He
note?
would.
but, I mean, if he's not
But
gonna,
if he's gonna do
We
that,
advised him of that.
he might wanna, like, I don't think, again, does it have to be stated in his permit that he's going 25%? If he does decide to change, I don't know the answer to that.
I mean,
I don't-
from, it doesn't impact zoning.
No,
The zone
No,
zoning, he's
no.
zoning, so I would think that the planning.
no, it's just a question of
Well, no,
whether.
no,
it's-
so
But
we
he
would-
will, I mean, he will have to put it in his LIP application, and we have to sign off on the LIP
And it
application.
would be in the a waiver on the deed.
Yeah.
Because our subsidy would require that it stays.
It would,
And that's fine, but you know, those are two questions, I don't know
Yeah.
what kind of amendments he needs to make. But if he wants to go back and build the extra units, he has a lot more. heavy
yeah,
lifting.
if he wants to increase it, I mean, I would think if I were the developer and I didn't have to do septic, I would at least take a look at adding more units.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest
sending
issue,
parcel, that's it.
my understanding, the biggest issue he has with the project is his intent was to get funding to build it as supportive housing. Given the size of the units transitional, which means one of the units would be occupied by a service provider full-time. He was working with the state, who's interested in using the property that way, as well as advocates. That effort seems to have, at the time we met with him a couple months ago, it stalled out. He was not sure what was happening there.
I think, just given our
So-
timing, I want to move on. So what's the action item here? I can give him a call and just say, what's up? And, you know.
Kinda like when he's ready, he ought to come talk to us, right? I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
it's- I
yeah,
mean,
but
we-
it's good to show him that we're here to
Hey,
support him.
I mean,
I would-
if you wanna make a proposal, we'd really love to support you, and we'll help you make a proposal, but you gotta come back and tell us what you wanna do,
I understand
right?
that, Hank.
I would suggest, you know, finding out where he's at with things, with the state, with advocates. And if he's interested,
Right.
you know, a short meeting with you, just, doesn't have to be the full team that was there
Right.
last time, just you and I, to go over and like, make sure that he's connected to get those things moving forward. You know, take it in a
I did in an email on another project to Shelley Goring at MHP. I mean, she's aware of it and, you know, of that project, of that development. And I had said, I'm emailing you, can you give us some directions as far as where there may be grants or other programs that may be appropriate for him? Haven't heard anything back, but she was probably getting ready for the Housing Institute, so I can, after I talk to Rich and stuff, I have to get some other information to her, and I can ping her again on that. So I'll take it from there. All right, moving on, and still in the housing partnership. Post road development. I think this is the first time we're really talking about this. There's a company called Post Road Residential. That's their actual name, and it came from their building luxury apartment buildings along the old Post Road, which was Route 1, up from Connecticut up through, I think they even gone to Maine. That's how they got their name, because they've been going along
Route 20.
or Route 20
Right.
area, more or less. They built a couple in Marlborough, and these are high-end units. I don't know, did anybody go and visit? You saw it. So, I mean, I didn't go, but
I've done the video tour, and it's,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're very
really
impressive.
designed for high-end individuals, or professionals, young professionals is who they, I guess, mostly attract because of the amenities that they offer with that. What we've had discussions with is their desire, or they say they can't afford, meaning they can't make their numbers, their return numbers, given our current exclusion, if they went with our current exclusionary zoning. Inclusionary zoning bylaw, which is, 15% has to be split between 50% AMI and 80% AMI, and then the last 5% would be 120, so workforce type of housing, AMI. That's what's in there. Now, it does have language where we can negotiate for buy downs and things like that. They gave us a model of their calculations and everything, and they had a consultant, RKG, who I'm not familiar with, who drew up what they were seeing as rental levels, income levels, building costs, etc. And there's assumptions about construction loan rates, inflation for rent going over a 10-year period. Basically, at this point, I took their model, adjusted it in the sense that just some of their constants and stuff, put that more specifically so you can see what it is, and started to run some scenarios where instead of their income, I used one of their developments in Marlborough, and the rent amounts that they're asking for their different size units. And we know how many units of different sizes they're looking to build. These are 7-story buildings, and there would be 2 of them. There would be one on Milk and 9 on that corner, and the other a little further down east on the south side of 9, parcel there. So they're looking to build 400 apartment units. So we're in the process. I did this analysis. We had a meeting with Jenny and Kristen there, and showed them some of mine. I went back, did some more adjustments or improvements on the model to be able to say, well, if they buy down at different amounts, different prices, what does it make their numbers look like? So really the next thing is to meet. I would like to meet with Jenny, and I don't know, Kristen, I sent off that email. I haven't heard back, because it was about a week ago. For us to sit down and just, because in the end, it's gonna be the planning department that calls the shots on buy downs, things like that.
well, the planning board will make the decision.
The planning board, yeah. What did I say? Planning
Department.
department, okay, planning.
Yeah,
So-
I'm a little unclear on the negotiation piece, though. The zoning is pretty clear on what the amount is per unit to
Correct.
buy down. Is it just how many units they want, whether they want to go
Well,
from 20 to
they've
15
also,
or 20 to...
they originally said, and this was, they had said, well, we need to buy down. We didn't get into specific numbers, but they said, well, we want to buy down, and we think 50,000 would be what we could use. Per the zoning article, it says, if you do buy down, if the planning board negotiates, the price to buy down, in their case, it would wind up being $199,500
Per unit on
per
400
unit.
And they want to
On
do 50?
400 units.
No, they want to pay only 50,000.
Right, so they want to pay
a quarter
A
of
quarter
what?
of what?
Per
On
unit,
how
it's
many,
an
on
affordable
what
unit.
fraction of the units?
Only the affordable.
We don't
units,
know.
each unit.
Well,
So here's
Okay,
what.
wait,
so
whoa,
here-
whoa, whoa, whoa. I want to make sure.
the assumptions you're making, what fraction of the units are they looking for a subsidy on?
To buy down,
Oh,
or,
yeah, a subsidy, buy down, right.
right. We don't know the exact number. Obviously, that factors in to changing it from affordable up to that.
Yeah, okay, so, I mean, I'm
yeah,
just
but
uncomfortable,
we-
we don't know how many incremental affordable units we're gonna get.
No, we're not
No,
getting
no,
any.
no, we're not
So-
getting any
getting less.
new,
And
more
funding.
units. It's, they want to lower the number, instead of
Yeah,
it
okay,
being,
so-
right now, if you just went with our zoning bylaw, for a 200 unit apartment, okay, 40 of those units have to be affordable.
No.
At those rates of 50, 80, and then 120. Okay, that's all laid out in the zoning article. Also laid, and what they're saying is, well, if we have that many affordable units, we can't make our numbers, our internal return on investment
Sure.
that they want, which is 20%, is what their IIR is. So they're saying, in order for us to do this development, which has benefits for the town, obviously we get more housing in the town. We have to be given a reduction in the number of affordable units. We're willing to pay you to give us that leeway, if you will, by paying you $50,000 for each unit. So let's say they wanted to buy, they have 40 units, which is 20%. If they wanted to go to 10%, that means they would have 20 units
now I
that they would have to buy down.
Yeah,
Now-
I get it.
So to clarify, right?
Yes.
The inclusionary zoning is 20% affordable and moderate income. It's
Correct.
15% affordable,
Well,
which is
but-
50% to 80% AMI, so long as it averages to 70.
Right.
And the remaining 5% of those units is at or below 120% AMI. The inclusionary, section E of the inclusionary zoning bylaws that talk about the payment in lieu of, the buy down mechanism, don't specify if the payment in lieu of, it covers any inclusionary unit, which means the market, meaning the moderate income housing that aren't SHI, and the 15% of units that are SHI. And so, it's unclear from the developer how many in lieu of payments they want to make. So how many affordable units they want to reduce and how many moderate income
The
they want
120s.
to do as well.
They,
The only place where I see availability of negotiation, the bylaw is pretty clear. Now, obviously, the planning board can make an exception. Well, no, the zoning board of appeals can make an exception to the bylaw. And economic feasibility is a reason to do that, because you can't, if not, we'll lose in court, right, with economic feasibility. So, I think the questions that really need to be discussed are they looking to take any of the moderate income and go to market? Or are they looking to take the affordable units and go to market, or the affordable units and go to moderate? From the
buy,
right.
convert
And
some
so
of
the only place where I could see us negotiating the amount of the payment in lieu of is if it's affordable to moderate. If they're taking an affordable unit, taking it into market, the bylaw's clear. It's 2x for
times
family,
the
times
four,
the HUD, maximum HUD income for a family of four.
which was
It's
99,000.
cut and dry.
Yeah.
If they were gonna say, well, we, instead of doing 15 and 5, we wanna do 10 and 10, right? Then, to me, that is something that potentially the planning board and eventually the ZBA could consider. But, the model the town used and the model the developer's using financially are different, right? It's unclear whether the model the developer is using to determine feasibility is actually appropriate. they made some pretty aggressive assumptions in their model as far as rates and IRRs and ROIs and other factors. And obviously, they want to minimize risk, and that's their job and understandable, but they can't eliminate, it was like they're trying to eliminate any risk, and that's not feasible from, shouldn't be feasible from the town side as well. So I think my understanding was the next step is there was gonna be discussion about the actual financial modeling so that the planners and the developer would come to an agreement on what the numbers are, and then you can make the assessment.
Correct.
I will state here adamantly that in no way at any point in time, in lieu of payments, should the town, any entity of the town, accept it going below 10%. Because that takes us further away
Yes. If I
from the
lose.
40B mitigation. Now, given that with the remaining mixes of affordable, market and
Okay.
moderate, yeah, I suspect there could be some room for discussion there. But until there's an agreed upon set of
I
financial
think just
numbers.
for time, I hate to cut you off, but I think you and I, we have a working committee that's following up on this. I'll say, are not in agreement on the numbers. I mean, I think we have much better numbers than what they have used.
Just to clarify, we being
The trust.
the
well,
trust
the-
and
Well, I
this
mean,
developer
you-
are not in
you-
agreement on
you-
numbers.
Correct.
Okay. I just
You
wanted
two
to-
guys believe you have a different set of numbers and they're
We do.
better. The trust hasn't gone over all of this. We have not had a policy conversation about policies that we would support the town implementing, et cetera. So just, we need to be careful we don't get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're just trying to get to the point where,
right.
hey, guys, you use these numbers, we're using these. We need
Yeah.
to agree that, if you're gonna make arguments
the
about your.
reason-
Let me
Okay,
finish.
sorry.
I will recognize you. We need to come to an agreement on what are the numbers that you're using if you're making an argument that you need relief so that you can build, increase the housing stock in Westborough, but yet at the same time, we have to make sure that affordability units or limits are not.
And what I
Compromise.
think we're offering the developer is advice on things he might do to get support from the housing trust. We cannot advise him on what decisions the town will make, because the authority who makes those decisions is the planning board.
Right.
So we're providing some I'm gonna call technical advice, but say, hey, given our understanding of the state regulations and things of that, and our understanding of the development business, here's some things that might be reasonably proposed. And if you want to propose these reasonable things, the trust will consider supporting you. But remember, you need to go to the planning board to get final answers.
So-
That's all understood.
If I can
Yes, go
clarify
ahead,
further,
quickly.
this is not a matter for the housing trust at all at this point in time.
Yeah.
Because there's no subsidy. If the town is negotiating with the in lieu of, and it's gonna go outside of the letter of the zoning, then yes, at that point, the trust can decide from an advocacy standpoint whether or not to write a letter.
Yeah.
But we're not involved. The role of the Housing Partnership Committee is to help developers
Right.
get housing with affordable housing permitted. And so our role isn't to come up with the financial model, it isn't to assess, it isn't to advocate on either side. We are, in a sense, a mediator or a facilitator to help the conversations.
Right.
And we need to be very, very careful.
Yeah,
to
and
limit our role.
and that's what we're
And so
doing. We're
Ed's-
trying to get everybody on the same page.
Ed's been playing with some alternative numbers to try and help the town planning department, eventually the planning board and the developer come to agreement on what the numbers are, so that from there you can have the conversation.
Yes.
It's
And-
very limited in scope.
Moving on, unless there's a.
And we're doing this, we are two bodies. We are the Housing Partnership Committee, which is an advice-giving body, also in some instances an approval body, because we do sign some documents.
Right.
But we're acting as the Housing Partnership Committee in this conversation with the.
Yes.
So we just thought of, in our notes and whatever we write down on a sheet of paper, we ought to just note that in the role as the Housing Partnership Committee or something of that sort, so that if
Yeah.
10 years from now, some legal claim occurs, you got valid notations saying, yeah, it was not the trust, was not the municipality, it was this committee.
Okay, noted, thank you.
Okay, I have a comment and a question. Comment is, I do appreciate Hank's comment around, we're not having a policy discussion right now, but I think that that's something that we maybe should have in terms of what Alan was discussing, in terms of like having a policy that says that our committee advocates only for no less than 10%, and for the various reasons, and kind of putting that in writing somewhere.
Yeah.
My question is, have they done this at other sites? And what the percentage has been, or what the result has been at those other sites?
They have done it at Marlborough.
Okay.
One big difference between Marlborough and us, even though we're pretty close, Marlborough is in the Boston, Cambridge, Quincy, HUD area.
Okay.
We're in the Worcester area.
Yeah.
Area median incomes are significantly different, to the tune that affordability in Boston versus Westborough, it's about 31% higher.
Yeah.
So they were able to charge, even for affordable units, 31% higher amounts.
Yeah.
For the same, basically it's gonna cost them the same to build, I assume, because we're so, we're in the same area.
Right.
And their rents are gonna be the same.
Right.
I think that's reasonable, because we're really in the same neighborhood. So,
Well, yeah.
yes, so to answer your question, yes, they did buy down some. I don't have the exact numbers, but they were making that argument that, well, we were able to do this in
So my question is,
in Marlborough.
my further question is then, which did they do? Did they buy down total units?
didn't
or
buy down
did
any.
We will figure that out.
No,
I don't know.
we know, they did not have to make any adjustment in Marlborough, because the affordable rents in Marlborough are more than 30% higher than they are in Westborough.
And the market rents are also concomitant.
And the
The
market
market
rents are
rents and the
similar.
affordable rents, the market rents are probably 40% higher
No.
in Marlborough.
They're
At
not.
least 30.
Okay, well, okay.
The
My
Boston
question,
area.
my
Whoa,
question
Whoa,
was,
whoa, whoa.
It's just, the market rents in Marlborough are comparable to Westborough.
Okay.
The affordable rents in Marlborough are significantly higher than the affordable rents in Westborough, because they're part of Boston. So they didn't have to take a hit on the rent, they didn't have to do any payment in lieu of, or reduce the amount of affordability.
okay,
The financials, the development worked as proposed.
okay, so basically, they are, okay. I have some follow-up questions, but we can take it offline.
Okay,
later.
why don't we do that, and we move on. So anyhow, the next step is to get us, I wanted to meet with, and, meet with Jenny, and Krista, and just say, okay, this is where we have some numbers, we have a nice model, we can see puts and takes, things like that. What do we want to do moving forward in discussions with, with Post Road Residential, to try to make sure that we get our number, that we're all on the same page. All right. And moving on.
So I move we
now we're going to close.
I move we adjourn the Housing Partnership Committee meeting.
Okay. Second. All those favor? Okay. 6 being present. Thank you. All right. Getting back, we have next item on the agenda is Ellington Metro West. Kristen been following up. This is to make sure that they are in compliance with, with HUD levels.
So in your packet, there was, this Maloney Properties gives us this table, of all of their proposed rents for the next year. I went through and compared, up at the top it says new move-in, 80%. Those rates need to match what the HUD rates were, that came out in April. Everything there looks good. And then down at the bottom where it says rent limits, for a 1-bedroom unit, they would take the 2-person household amount, $79,800, and they would divide it by 12 months out of the year, and then multiply it by 30% of their income, and then that should give you the rental amount, so $19.95. And then I went through and just confirmed that those calculations were correct, which they were. And then they adjusted according to water and sewer, taking that out. So the net amount in yellow is what the renter would pay. And then I put on the sheet, just so you can see the difference, that's 2025 proposal rates. 2024 is underneath. So in some cases, the rental amount went down, not in all. So that's fairly positive for some people. So we went through that. That looks good to me. She just needs approval of that. Jenny would write a letter and say, we approve these rates. And then the other item that she forwarded was the list of all the people in the units and their individual rents. And Ed asked that I make some random phone calls to tenants to just confirm what the rent is they're paying, to make sure that what's being reported to us is accurate. And when I did that, they weren't lining up. And as it turns out, the rental company, or Maloney, was giving me the report from 2024. So she gave me the wrong numbers. So I just got 2025 numbers. I still have to go back and reconcile that. But it has been good, because in those conversations with the tenants, I've been able to educate them a little bit on these types of things, to make sure they understand what the amounts are, so that they could, speak up if it's over that as well. And a lot of them, didn't really, like, their rent's going up, yes, and that is allowed. Like, where their perception was, they're not able to make those increases. Understanding what the maximum is, but that the company isn't actually charging you the maximum, that made them feel a little bit better too, so.
My only question, understand that we're not seeing the 2025 numbers, so we need to see those.
Right.
Okay, also, for the utility allowance, they're using data from the Shrewsbury Housing Authority and not the Westborough. Is there a reason for that?
We don't have any of those calculations.
This is for the utility
Okay.
offsets.
Right. So I don't know if the Housing Authority has something like that that they're considering putting together, but we don't have.
They
Rates
should,
like
because they
that.
provided it to O'Hagan for the LIP application we approved over off of Glen Street.
Okay, I can follow up with them again.
So they have a meeting next week. I'm the liaison to that committee. I could probably ask them.
Which
The
committee?
ED should be able to
Westborough
give you
Housing
that
Authority.
information.
Oh, Westborough Housing.
Yeah, the ED just gave her resignation.
just- yeah, I
She's
saw that they
90 days
posted it.
out, so I think she's pretty sharp. I would think she's got,
I mean, it'd be worth checking. I mean, even though the ED's
Okay.
leaving, she's not gone yet.
no,
Right.
And
no.
in interactions that Kate and I have had with her, she seemed like a competent person,
Yeah.
and responsive
stuff.
and responsible.
So
Can
can
I-
the takeaway be that Mark will check?
Can I share
Coordinate
this
with Kristen.
Maloney property thing with her? That
Huh?
Sure.
Until
That's
it's
public-
show her what numbers
That's
we're
public
looking-
record.
Yeah, yeah.
The Shrewsbury?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just so, I'm sure she,
Saying this is what
Again,
we.
I don't wanna speak for her,
This is
but-
what one of the,
I'm just gonna give her an example of what we're trying to get filled out.
That she'll know what it is, because they're supposed, by law, they're supposed to maintain that, so, by regulations.
all right, so we're set on that.
And then we'll
All right,
vote next month.
moving on, project updates, rental assistance, nothing.
Yeah, I have a brief update. 'Cause,
Okay.
I got word from MetroWest Collaborative Development. As you recall, with 4 of the households where assistance was provided, there were 2 checks weren't being cashed, and they put stop payments on those. There were 2 others that were flagged during the process of attempting to be cashed or deposit, and those were stopped as well. Those cases have been investigated, and they are fraudulent. it appears that all 4 of those cases were done exclusively through the web application, so there was no in-person meeting or anything with the individuals. And the documents submitted were extremely sophisticated forgeries, is what we've heard back from Newton Police. So at this point, Newton Police is continuing their investigation. It's unclear whether they'll be able to identify the individuals involved. But it also means that there's some money, I'm waiting to hear back the exact amount that's unallocated. And so my thought is that as a committee, we could consider reopening the program, but we shouldn't do so until we update the application process.
Can Metro West Collaborative Development help us understand what we need to fix?
Yeah, I mean, I think realistically it means that there has to be an in-person meeting
Yeah, I mean, even if.
with the
get-
individuals.
Even if we have to pay them to do it, I just get them, hey, tell us what we need to change and
Yeah,
let us take a look at it, because it just make it move. I mean, take some of the burden off of our volunteer army here.
so I'm working to get a time schedule next week
Great.
to get this moving again.
Okay. All right, moving along, home borrow, down payment assistance.
I'm bogged in the weeds.
I know,
I'll hopefully have stuff for next.
okay.
I want to get this moving.
Okay, 3 Baylor, as you saw, there's some photos that shows the framing going up on the house. And that's great, that's exciting finally.
Got a shell, finally have a shell.
That's right. Yeah, there were 2 photos there which, mimic what the original design was, that was proffered. So, I don't know when, Mark, did you get any idea of when he sees getting it to market or finishing it?
All he had responded was that, framing was done, that siding and windows were gonna go up next week. And then he gave us the purchase price
Yeah.
information. So he was hoping to get approval on that so that he could start the lottery process.
Right. Yeah,
But
yeah,
you can see,
latest
like-
was 247,900. Okay, and,
That's inside of what we'd approved before.
yes, actually, our subsidy would need to be less than the
Okay.
172 that we had voted, so, so that's all good.
So do we have to approve that today?
No,
So
oh, no,
there's
we've already approved
We don't have to-
the subsidy.
Okay, so there's no.
No, the sale
additional
price said.
approval.
Oh, no,
I
no,
thought-
no, no,
I
no,
thought
that's
Kristen said that-
EOHLC.
Yeah, we don't.
Basically, we're out of the loop, except, I
Okay,
mean,
I
at
wasn't
this
clear
point, there's
by
nothing.
what you meant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
I just wanna make sure too.
I wasn't
that
clear by
the
what you meant as far
Trust
as-
doesn't need to do an additional approval of this, okay.
Okay.
Nope.
No.
No,
Because
this
I
is
wasn't
all
clear by-
EOHLC.
Because given interest rates and the current sell price, because the amount of the subsidy is within what we've already approved, we don't need to approve this.
I just wasn't clear
Is he
when
done-
she said he needed the sale price approved, who was doing that approval, but you've made it clear it's not us, so.
He's not asking us to approve the LIP application at this point, is he?
No.
Okay,
This is just giving us an update of where we are. And,
right.
You know,
See, he hasn't filed the lip.
I'll have to follow up.
Yeah, it just,
okay.
Because the Housing Partnership Committee needs to sign off on
Yeah, I'll see if
one of
it's
us
ready.
needs to
the
sign
LIP-
off on the
the
lip, and I
LIP
don't
local action.
remember having seen it, but my sense
No,
is
he
he's
did
gotta
have
do a
most of
marketing
his
plan.
documentation in, but it had to be updated with the new financial information.
I mean,
Didn't
his
he-
marketing
well,
plan
He did
needs
the
to.
marketing plan, which was included in the
Right.
permitting process at some point.
I don't think he filed the lip.
Okay,
He-
we'll find out. All right, Lyman Street.
So Lyman Street, the Colangelos had asked if we were all set with the subsidy agreement. We pointed out that we had provided it to their council and we're waiting to hear back.
Right.
So my understanding, and is that it's still in their court.
It's in Donahue's court. or-
It's still in Donahue's court
Mark
to
Donahue.
approve our final, we agreed to certain things or a couple things that we
Right.
didn't. They need to say, okay, yes, get a clean one that's ready for signature.
Okay, all right. On Connector Road, that was signed this week. That agreement was signed, I signed it this week and had to send it off to Sharon. And they've already, Via has signed it, so they're good to go at this point. So nothing more immediately to do on that. We had a delay in that because I wasn't copied on something from a number of weeks ago, but it doesn't matter. All right, next, DCAM property. If you've had a chance to read there's a put together, it's the disposal of a parcel 38-1C. DCAM is responsible for, among other things, disposing of what's considered surplus state lands. And they've been going around identifying those where there's no need, the state has no need or expects no need for the properties. This is located, as you can see from the maps, up basically the split between where Lyman goes and the road, I keep forgetting the long name, that goes up to the Pulte apartments. It's right below the DME
Dr. Solomon Carter
facility.
Fisher or something like that.
Huh?
road. Dr. Solomon Carter
Fuller.
Fisher
But
Road or something
whatever.
like that.
Okay, so here's some of the tricky parts. So we had a call, it was Christie, because they contacted Christie, Ian and myself, last Friday, or 2 weeks ago Friday, 2 weeks ago today. And basically, what came out of it was, that was most concerning, was they're looking to auction the property to developers. They're looking to move fast. Apparently, they're reading between the lines. They have pressure from the state, and understand it, to try to create more units of housing in the Commonwealth, which is understandable. That's part of the initiative for this administration, significant initiative. What is disconcerting is the fact that they don't have to follow local zoning. Right? Now, it's a MUD zoning that we have in effect for that area, in that particular parcel. So building a high density, like other Pulte buildings almost, on that property, it's a 5 acre plus, almost 6 acre property, could be done. They have no obligation to have affordable units. This was what we were told. Then we of course were sort of taken aback by this whole conversation a bit, and so you can read, my points there. As a result, what they have asked for, and I think they're still trying to get their act together, okay? Because they weren't able to answer some questions, and it just seemed they were then asking for comments on their proposal, and even though we never received a specific proposal, like we're looking for a developer to build X number of units on this property, and this kind of mix or whatever. Because when they go out for an auction bid, they should say, we will sell you this land provided you build at least so many units of housing.
Ed, a question.
Yeah.
An auction?
An auction.
So like a public auction
A
or?
public
or
auction,
or
an
RFP?
online public auction.
Online public auction, okay.
Okay, if you get on their website, you can get some more details on that, on the auction. And, how they're doing it, et
So-
cetera. But it would be
so
at the end of the month.
Open to anybody.
Yes. Okay?
Delivery to highest bidder, probably the terms, right?
You would think so.
Yep, okay.
Okay. Now, what they did ask is that we comment on the proposal. Proposal basically being, we want to go build something here in your town on surplus land. So what Christie is tasked with is responding with comments to them by the 27th of this month. And I have started to draft
Comments.
some key points, you know, arguing for the importance of affordable housing. I think Alan and I together can go through this, and basically what we're doing is we're providing Christie with ideas and talking points or response points that we can then, that she can then send in. And a lot of it has to do with the importance of having affordable housing, and it goes through a whole bunch of, I think, compelling reasons why they should, at minimum, have 10%. Otherwise, they dilute our SHI if they go below that. So, as well as other issues, just, you know, and I have, you know, some of this has stats in it and everything about the, you know, affordability or lack of affordability within Westborough, the high rent rates, high ownership rates, et cetera, et cetera. So anyhow, we'll work on that, get it to Christie next week. We should be able to get something during the week. And, because I think we have a pretty good start, about 4-page document here. And she'll take it from there. She'll put her spin on it. I have talked to Kate Donahue. I think Kate has also talked to Christie. There was somebody, she got, I guess there's a property in Northborough that they're looking at.
There's an adjacent piece of property
Yeah.
in Northborough.
Right.
I'm not aware of any of the details, but I've heard that through some contacts in Northborough that there's one or more Northborough parcels.
Yes.
All part of that old state hospital property.
Yeah.
And
I think it's
adjacent,
further
and
upline.
there's other, I mean, there's a whole bunch of DCAM property, another piece across the street, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, so basically, Northborough, Kate got a call from them, Kate Donahue, our rep, because she represents part of Northborough, that it came across to, I think, the planning.
Probably came
Or-
across to the town planner.
No, I believe it was the town planner. They didn't get a
Okay,
copy
could be, yeah.
of what was sent either to, because it was sent primarily to the town managers.
Yep.
But copied to people, but they may have missed that, and they heard about it through some other mechanism and were a little upset they weren't. Nevertheless, be that as it may, Kate and Hannah are both clued in, as is, you know, our senators.
Senator Moore.
Huh?
Senator Moore.
Senator Moore, and I'm sure Jamie, even though he's not ours, is familiar with it. I think this is their first round, their first attempt to go out to dispose of land. So, that's where we're at with this, Kate.
So we don't have right of first refusal here because we have no, okay. So are we able to bid?
We could.
Sure.
So do we have any idea of what the cost of that bid might look like?
I mean,
Do we have any?
we don't right now. We would have to research to get what would it be.
I mean, the trust has the ability to bid.
Yep.
The town itself also has the ability to bid. I don't know if the town can, because I don't know if they have the money, because they may not have any appropriated money,
But we do.
we might be able to partner with the town as the.
Town would have to go to town meeting again and appropriate.
But again, but we have money.
Right.
So I mean, it would seem like it would be worth a conversation here. Should we just kind of should we now agree ahead of time to partner with the town and jointly with the town submit some kind of a bid with the funding coming from the housing trust? We don't know what we're gonna bid, we don't know how much we're gonna bid, but we need to invest some time and energy in understanding what would the town do with the property if they were to get it, and what would that be worth to them, so we could kind of think about how we might bid.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, so I'm a little confused by the claim that they don't have to do affordable housing
That's right.
and that they don't have to do, follow zoning. Like, that may or may not be true for the state, but once the state sells the property to a private entity, I cannot understand how the state would control the zoning at that point. And in my opinion, it's zoned MUD, and there's a inclusionary housing provision in the MUD zoning. So I think before I'm willing to spend millions of dollars to try to buy this, I want to know what we're at risk at, because if a developer comes in and has to conform to the 20% affordable, then we can talk to them about buying the 5% or not, right? But or not buying the 5%, but
It would come
subsidizing an
up
additional
similar
buy.
to what
What
Post
we've
Road
done
is
at
doing.
Colangelo, or what we've done at, not similar to Post Road, but similar to what we did with Colangelo and Connector, where we subsidized an increase to 25. But, I need, from my understanding, there are provisions in the Affordable Housing Act that somehow address that
You
question.
mean
And I have not
what
had.
was just passed, the Affordable Homes Act.
Affordable
Yeah.
Homes Act, sorry, that addressed that question, and I haven't had a chance to read the whole act to see. And I'd be curious to hear town council's.
Can we start by inquiring
Yeah.
of our town zoning enforcement officer as to what at least, we have a zoning enforcement officer, I don't remember if it's Fred or if it's Kristen.
It's
but
Bill Hewitt.
I mean, it would appear to me a good process would be ask the zoning enforcement officer, if he or she is unsure, they have the authority to go ask the town attorney, and we get an opinion about what happens to the zoning when the state sells the property.
Yeah.
That's information seemed to be good to have.
I wrote up an email that I sent to Christie and Ian saying, this is what I heard on the call. Did I miss anything? And specifically, I said that they said that local zoning does not hold.
Yeah, because I would imagine if that is true, the bids are gonna be much higher,
Yeah.
because talk about carte blanche, right?
Yeah.
Like,
They can do
you can
whatever
do whatever you
they
want,
want.
okay,
But
I'm
it-
gonna.
It's an
reverts-
auction,
the
so
mud property
it's
reverts
it's an auction, not bids.
reverts to the local
Okay.
zoning when.
So
when
anyhow, this is what, I think the next step, well, there are two steps that I recommend, that I'd suggest. One is, Ellen and I work on this response, because they've asked for a response, we should proceed with the response. Separately, I would ask Mark, if you could, with Christie, with Bill Hewitt,
Sure.
try to get clarification.
Yeah.
And maybe you have to go on into their website, the Affordable Housing Act's website, and, and DCAM's website, because it's really two things. One is what the law was passed, and then another is what DCAM is doing, and are they straying outside of what the act is? I don't know. And then, and then feel free to have Christie, contact
Yeah,
KP Law.
I'm very curious, and I will follow up with Christie and ask her to, they don't really like it when I go directly to department heads, but
Right.
the point is, if they're saying they can't, if they're saying they don't need to follow zoning, do they not need a building permit? Do they not need an occupancy permit? Because I would contest that we aren't gonna give any of those.
My understanding is the Affordable Homes Act had a mechanism that DCAM, state property could be used without having to comply to local zoning, is a way to keep local zoning from preventing the housing from being
It
built.
was more
So
that way.
so I believe that's in the legislation.
Yeah, we already
But-
have that, it's called 40B, right?
Well,
Yeah, we gotta.
yeah, but this was meant to be an expedited process, so.
Yeah, no, I
I
get it,
think-
I get it.
I mean, I think it's fine to go talk to our zoning enforcement officer and everything. I assume the town has already gotten a legal opinion from town council on this matter. We can ask that question.
I will,
And then
yeah.
if not, we can ask for that directly from Sharon.
Yeah, I'll do some follow-up on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would, when I talked to Christie Tuesday or so this week, in response to my email, just saying, are we all on the same page? I mean, Ian, Christie, and myself, from what we've heard. She didn't mention anything about having gone to Sharon, but maybe she has in the meantime. So, but Mark, if you can follow on trying to drill into, I'll call it the legal and aspects.
The zoning enforcement
Right.
issues. I mean,
That
just
would be
need
great.
clarity on how the zoning would
And let
transition.
Alan and I know. I think we're the
Sure.
three that'll be on the working committee for DCAM for now.
The-
May come differently. I mean, just this is to respond and decide what we can or can't do.
We don't know their intended timing for the auction, do we?
Yes, the end of the month.
End of this month.
Yes.
They're gonna have a
And-
heck of a time having an auction the end of the month if they can't today publish on a public website what the rules and guidelines and regulations are.
So
They have to do that. That's,
then I'm
Well,
gonna.
it has been announced. I mean,
it's
it
been
has.
announced that they want to do that. It has not been announced that here's how they're going to do it, so that the public has these guidelines to follow.
Correct.
So I would suggest in parallel that a subgroup of us sits down and looks at our financials and says, if we were gonna make a bid, given our budget, given our commitments and our expectations and the other work we wanna do, given our currently available funds, what would the maximum bid that we would make? And if that bid throws us over any of the thresholds,
Yep.
that we get on the agenda of the next select board meeting for approval.
Yeah, I can take a look and see what the property looks like from the maps online and that. Are there
You
wetlands?
can do a walk
Are there-
around, yeah.
you know,
I looked at that. I didn't see any wetlands. I didn't see any real gotchas, but it would be good if we just made
We
sure.
just see whether it's, I mean, it could be it's not developable, but it probably is.
The only real downside that I've seen is that it is right adjacent to the Department of Mental Health facility, like that star-shaped building that's on the maps that I think you
Yeah.
have. That, I think, would be, and it's only my
Yeah,
opinion, that individual homes, like if you were to say, classic residential homes on there, that might be an issue versus apartment or condo units, but once again, I may be reading in more than I should. They said that there has
5
to
acres in
be,
Westborough, 5 million?
at minimum, 4 housing units per acre. That's the minimum.
Okay. So,
And so that's about 20 houses if they were to do a housing or townhousing or something like that versus apartment style, more like a Pulte. Okay, so,
so who wants to sit down and crunch numbers?
I have, up-to-date numbers, okay?
Can we do that Monday night, maybe? Monday evening?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I have our latest numbers, and I got, from Rockland Trust, the end of May's numbers, so we know what our holdings are, if you will, et cetera, and I was gonna address some of that in issues and correspondence. Okay, moving on. What do we have next on the agenda here? I lost my agenda. All right, so that's DCAM. Issues and correspondence. Just a couple of things I can bring you up to date on is
Before we move on,
yeah,
we should make a motion.
okay.
So I move that the chair and select 1 or 2 additional trustees for a working group in order to evaluate if we could bid on the property and what the maximum bid would be.
Okay.
And further, given the timing, if that bid would hit our oversight thresholds to
Select board requirements.
initiate conversations with the select board or motion action with the select board for the necessary approvals.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor,
Second.
second? Okay, any discussion on that? Okay.
And if we need to, we'd have to schedule another meeting of the trust.
Yeah.
Okay.
From the numbers side, I'm
Well,
happy to be on that committee.
Well, can we vote on the motion
Huh?
and then figure out who's on the committee?
Yeah,
Well, that's what we're trying to do, so.
Chairman can figure-
I'll do it with you. If there's someone else who wants to join, they can join us.
Okay, so, well, anyhow, let's just do that motion to, the chair and two other trustees.
One or two others.
One or two others would be on that. So let's vote on that motion, then we can decide who would be on the committee. So any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, I'll go to a vote. All those in favor? Okay, so we will form up that working group. Now, who is interested in being on that, which is basically to determine I'll use the word feasibility, capability of us being one of the bidders.
So I won't be much help on the numbers. I mean, you guys are much better at that stuff, but I'd be happy to help as far as, the communication from the zoning aspect and, what we can do with it. I think, you two are perfectly capable of deciding, doing the numbers side of it. I'm not sure that the zoning side of it and the permitting side of it is really
Okay,
applicable yet.
that's fine. Steve, were you?
Yeah, but I think given the numbers is more where I would add. I think it may make
So
more
why
sense.
doesn't he join us for the?
Yeah, why don't you do, just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, no, that-
I want people to be learning too. you know,
Exactly, but
You know,
obviously,
processes.
yeah, and in this case, I
Yeah.
think Mark can add more to it.
Well,
Or is that what you're saying, that you wanted to do because of?
No, I mean,
Or just-
I'm gonna follow up on some of those questions.
Okay, then
I'm more than happy to do
yeah,
it.
we were
but-
basically looking at feasibility and stuff like that, and I think,
Okay, yeah.
you know, the other would be Hank, knowing properties, but.
Yeah, I would love
Steve,
to,
why
I
don't
would
you-
love to
why
do
don't you
it,
three
yeah.
guys
Steve,
go?
why don't you do
Steve,
it?
you have a lot
Definitely
on
more
your
in my
plate.
wheelhouse.
Why don't you
Yeah.
grab Steve?
I think
Yeah.
you
I'll do whatever
you may
I
have
can
more
do to
time
choose
than me
from.
too.
Yeah,
I got like
Okay,
8 meetings
it'll
next
be
week, so.
Myself,
Alan.
Steve, and Alan. Yeah, after a while. and it's like-
The guy
All right,
who
so-
interrupts.
That guy.
The interrupter.
Okay, so, we're set on that,
Perfect.
that motion and
I
filling out
just
that work.
chat GPT'd it for interest sake. I just chat GPT'd it for interest sake, and it did say that it does have to abide by local zoning laws. So I emailed you the results of the chat GPT questions.
Yeah,
I did the same thing.
all right.
Okay, we'll
It
figure it
says
out.
it, okay, we're gonna get
But
that
you gotta
sorted
figure it
out.
out. Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
need to confirm that because
And,
it's
and that'll be correct because the internet never lies.
Exactly.
correct.
It's
Right.
on the internet, it's gotta be true. No.
Right. Yeah.
No, I've seen chat GPT, not always. Yeah, anyhow, issues correspondence going on. 24 Indian Pond Road is, that's up for sale, or the woman, the owner is, looking to sell that. They got the price from EOHLC, the owner was upset because thought that, why isn't it more money? She wound up reaching out to the trust. You probably saw the email.
Yep.
My response. Subsequently, she called Sela, and Sela said, this person wants to talk to somebody on the trust, and I didn't. And so I talked to her, and it was only after I called her did I realize, oh no, I sent you an email. Oh, I thought that was from the state side. I go, no, that was a response to your request. Anyhow, it is where it is. I've just, but it took some cycles to get the information. But it is what, the 175,000 is what is in line.
That
with
is the
three
deed-
bedroom.
It's
275 is in
It's
line.
deed restricted, right?
Huh? No.
It is deed restricted.
Oh, it's deed restricted, yeah.
Okay,
I thought you
because
said
some of
age.
the properties in Westborough that are old are not.
This is deed restricted, and I went through the deed, and
Yep.
there were like two levels of how to calculate
Yep.
the selling price. Kristen and I had, I think, productive and worthwhile attendance at the Mass Housing Trust Annual Institute in Worcester. A number of panels and discussions there. And finally, end-of-year accounting, I need to make sure that we're getting all our numbers together. If anybody has any receipts for out-of-pocket expenses, get them to me. We probably only have one more or so warrant article. I still have not seen the money from the October fall town meeting that was approved, the 201,000 change come through yet on the Rockland Trust statement. So I'm gonna get in touch with Jonathan, our finance director, and try to make sure that we got everything together for end of year accounting with that. Anything else anybody else have?
You have the desirable skill sets for
Yeah.
trustees.
Oh, yeah. One thing that I said we would do, thank you, Kristen, is I've heard from one person, and I had a talk about, because we have an open position. And I thought what would be good is to put together, if somebody's interested in being on the trust, what kinds of things or skill sets would we find desirable and helpful? Because we do a lot of numbers, we do a lot of legal work. A lot of it, interplay with others, both developers and others. So I put this together. We don't need to do anything, but this is something that I was looking for to be put up on the website under the trustee area, so that we have a way when somebody says, "Well, what is this about?" And we go, "Well, here, first of all, why don't you look, read the website, and then secondly, here's what we think are good." We can just let you, I know this just came out, so we can pick it up next meeting, and just send comments back to me if you think that I'm missing something, or we should add, or should correct things like this. But this was at least a first cut on a way for us to make sure we're getting people that will really be able to help the trust. Anything else that anybody else has? So we'll put that on the agenda next time for, I guess, an approval, final approval.
Sure.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's exactly 10:30. All those in favor? Okay, I see that as unanimous. And thank you, Westborough TV.
5.8 acres